Hey, so this is my response to Tony's thread from a little while ago. I think he had about 8 questions, but I'm going to edit it a little bit because there are a few of them that didn't really have an answer for. So the first one was, are your musical tastes, and is your collection more mainstream or indie? I would say probably, if I had to make a choice, it's a mixture, but I find my musical philosophy, if you want to say, tends to be indie because I just have a bunch of stuff that I'm exploring. It's music, you know. When I first started collecting vinyl 3 or 4 years ago, I would just buy stuff just by looking at the cover. I still kind of do that occasionally. If the cover is intriguing to me, I'll just buy it. Why is that indie? The reason, what I think of when I think of indie, or an indie philosophy, or indie, music in general, I think about it as exploring, music in different genres, and that you just don't automatically take what's fed to you by mainstream radio or what's on TV. I started out like most people, when you were in your teens. Most of my taste all my taste, I guess, at that point was very mainstream. It was what was ever on MTV or that sort of thing in the 80s. Then in college, I started getting more exposed to college music and independent music, and that was partly being influenced by some of my new friends at that time. And so I spent the next 10 or 15, really, I guess you could say I was a music snob to some degree. I guess I still am in a way, but that's really starting to fade. The last 3 or 4 years or so, I've really come to the realization that being a snob and denying certain kinds of music is just really stupid and a waste of time. Actually, I think that's a good segue into a question that's further down the line, which is, pick an album that takes you back to a point. I think that my most impressionable age for music was somewhere in the vicinity of between 11 and 13. And the only reason why I think that is because whenever I hear some of those bands, the first 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 tapes or 45s that I had when I was that age, when I hear that music now, it's just this visceral reaction I have to that music. And it's kind of, you can't even put it into words. It's just sort of an emotion that brings you back to that time in your life, and it's just sort of indescribable. So this music, some of this stuff is just going to be very mainstream stuff because I was 12 years old. So Journey, Frontiers, I don't even know if it's necessarily this. These couple of early 80s Journey albums, they bring me back to that time, and I enjoy Journey now just because it brings me back to that time when, less complicated times, and I don't care if I get grief for it. Frame. Again, this is one of those first 4 or 5 tapes that I had when I was 11 or 12. This came out in about 82, I think. So yeah, I was probably 12 when this came out, 81. So again, another one from that era is Human League's Dare. I love this album now. It's fantastic. It's really good electronic, dance music. I've actually listened to this a lot in the last few weeks. This one actually, these next couple ones are actually from my 20s. They kind of bring me back to a time. I was going to put this in a recent vinyl finds, and maybe I'll do it anyway. But I picked up Michael Penn's March on vinyl. I didn't even think this was released on vinyl, but in '89, I guess that was about the point where they just started to give up on printing vinyl for mainstream releases. The reason why this one has such a strong feeling for me, I just remember wanting so badly to record these songs on 4-track. I was kind of in the beginnings of starting to get into a band, and a buddy of mine who was the singer, I remember asking him if we could just sort of, he had a 4-track at the time, and I just asked him if we could, record. I thought, which one was it? I think it was, Innocent One, which is the ending track on side 1, was the one I was playing guitar on, and I don't even know if we did it. We may have. I actually should look and see if we have it on 4-track. Anyway, long story short, this is just a fantastic record. just start to finish, it's a great sort of singer-songwriter. You know, a lot of you people, you know, maybe too young to remember this. This actually did fairly well, I guess. I looked it up whenever I got this online. And apparently this record actually got into the top 10. At least one of the singles did, so I was sort of surprised to see that. The last one I just put in my last video, Scud Mountain Boys. This came out in 95 or 96. And it just has strong, you know, feelings for me at that time. I kind of got out of college a few years later than scheduled, so I got out around 94. So 95 was whenever I was really starting to be independent. And so this kind of just reminds me of those days of rooming with a buddy of mine and just kind of getting my start into independence after college. And I used to listen to this constantly. It's odd because it's not, I mean, when I would listen to it, a lot of times I would listen to this when we were going out and having a good time at the bar, local bars. I'd listen to it on the way there or on the way back. So it's sort of a drinking album, I guess, if you want to be depressed. But for some reason, I just was so deeply into this record that even whenever I had 2 or 3 drinks, or probably 3 or 4 drinks or more, I enjoyed listening to that. So, next question: who do you think, or what do you think will happen to the vinyl community? Will it grow, evolve, or fizzle out? Well, in the short term, as in like the next 6 months to a year, I think it's going to continue to grow. It just seems to be that way. It just seems that people are continuing to sort of, all the people that are sort of the lurkers, if you want to say that. It seems like there's a lot of people that are just kind of taking the plunge and deciding to go ahead and do their own videos. So it's really cool. But I mean, at some point, it's going to start to dissipate. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to be a year or 2 down the road. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but it seems kind of hard to believe that I'll be sitting here doing this in 2 or 3 years. Maybe I will, I don't know, but it just seems like at some point in the relatively near future, it'll evolve into a point where some of us won't be involved with it. But who cares? It's sort of part of this. It's kind of what's cool about this community is that it's completely organic. It's not a website that's like the vinyl collecting website and people register for it. It's just people kind of come in and just sort of naturally become interested in the community. So next, I'll skip over biggest misconception about vinyl. This one's gonna actually maybe be a little bit of a surprise, maybe. But one thing I would say is that that vinyl is always superior to CDs, and this might be blasphemous to some vinyl snobs. I just know that most of the time I really enjoy listening to my records, but sometimes I put on, since I've gotten better equipment, I put on a CD and I find that it sounds great sometimes. So I'm not really a vinyl snob from that perspective. I mean, sometimes I hear a record and go, wow, this just sounds fantastic on vinyl. But sometimes I'll put a CD in and it sounds great. So I just think in some ways the misconception is that it's always going to be an audible thing that you can hear, that vinyl sounds better than CD. I just don't think that's always the case. Well, that's it. Number 8 I don't really have an answer for it, so I guess that's it. So, see you later.